Hello again, and welcome to the Daily Bread Bible Study. This is our first video that we are doing on the book of 2 Samuel. It is continuing a lot of the themes from the book of 1 Samuel. And in 2 Samuel, we will discuss that, chapters 1 through 3, here for day 91, Tuesday, March 31st for 2020, here on the Daily Bread Bible Study. 2 Samuel continues the narrative arc, which will lead us through the rise and the fall of the kings of the Promised Land. The stories combine to form kind of this narrative arc. This is what I'm going after. 1 Samuel is about the rise of God's king. 2 Samuel is about King David, aka God's king, his life and successes and failures. 1 Kings is about the kingdom's splitting, and 2 Kings is about the disintegration of hope. So we are jumping into the second portion of this narrative arc, King David's life of successes and failures. At the first part, we have to see how David becomes king. For in 2 Samuel chapter 1, David is not king. He is just informed of Saul and Jonathan's death by the son of an Amalekite. And this resident alien had been living with King Saul. In 2 Samuel 1, 5 through 6. Then David asked the young man who was reporting to him, "How do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan died?" The young man reporting to him said, "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and there was Saul leaning on his spear, while the chariots and the horsemen drew close to him." The young man continues in verse 8. "And he said to me, 'Who are you?' I answered him, 'I'm an Amalekite.' He said to me, 'Come, stand over me and kill me, for convulsions have seized me, and yet my life still lingers.' So I stood over him and killed him, for I knew that he could not live after he had fallen. I took the crown that was on his head and the armlet that was in his arm, and I brought them here to my Lord." David mourns and weeps for Saul and especially Jonathan, whom he loved. And in this strange turn of events, this Amalekite kills King Saul. This differs from the account that we saw in 1 Samuel 31, where Saul successfully commits suicide. In verse 4 of 1 Samuel 31, it says, "So Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell upon his sword and died with him." In this 2 Samuel account, the Amalekite kills Saul. And things come full circle from a narrative perspective, because Saul was originally punished for sins concerning Amalekites. Remember back to what the prophet Samuel said in 1 Samuel 28:18. "Because you did not obey the voice of the Lord, and did not carry out his fierce wrath against Amalek. Therefore the Lord has done this thing to you today," of making him no longer king, of revoking his and rejecting his kingship. The Amalekites were a proverbial and literal thorn in Saul's side. Saul's kingship was rejected by God over the Amalekites, and his kingship officially ends by this Amalekite. David will not fall to an Amalekite. That is not how David sins, though David too will make some choices that challenge God. Those are in his later years. David is not going to sin by the Amalekites. He will fulfill what God wanted Saul to do in 1 Samuel 15, where God asked him, "Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have." So David is going to utterly destroy the Amalekites. Thus, David scolds the Amalekite for killing God's anointed, King Saul, and has a young man put to death the Amalekite for killing King Saul. David then grieves by singing a song about King Saul and Jonathan, which he calls the Song of the Bow. In it, David recounts Saul and Jonathan's death, declaring how the mighty have fallen. In 2 Samuel chapter 2, David then receives blessing from the Lord to go to Hebron, and there David is officially made king. His first recorded act as king is to honor the people of Jabesh Gilead for their honoring of Saul's body. Remember, at the end of 1 Samuel, they took Saul's body down away from the Philistines and gave him a proper burial there at Jabesh. There's also a point of a not so small detail to mention here, that David is anointed king, but his kingship is over the tribe of Judah and not the whole of Israel. That title is now given to Saul's son, Ishbaal, or used kind of another name. His name here would mean man of Baal. The name that is referenced is the man of shame. His tenure is going to be short anyways. He will last for 2 years. But in that tenure, King Ishbaal continues his father's fight against King David. And the opposing commanders lead forces against one another. Abner for Israel and Joab for Judah. Now they come together to fight, and they send 12 to fight against 12, hoping that through their fighting they will be able to come to some sort of conclusion about how they can, and they won't have to fight. But each man is killed in the exhibition. 12 die against 12. And so fierce fighting ensues between the whole forces at Gibeon. Abner and his forces are getting beat back by Joab. And so Abner seeks to flee. Yet Joab's brother, Asahel, catches up, preventing him from running. And Abner warns Asahel to let him go. He's trying to flee. But seeing that Asahel is committed to pursuing him, Abner fights Asahel and pierces him through with his sword, killing Joab's brother. In shock and rage, Joab and his third brother, Abishai, pursue the other commander. The defeated Abner admits his loss and instructs Joab to stop before more of God's chosen people kill one another. So both sides cease the battle and return home. In 2 Samuel chapter 3, the battles resume, and more fierce battles take place between the house of Saul and the house of David. In 2 Samuel 3, verse 1, it says, David grew stronger and stronger, while the house of Saul became weaker and weaker. We then hear that during David's 7.5 years in Hebron, David has 6 more sons. On Ishbaal's side, internal conflict is mentioned, and Ishbaal falsely accuses Abner of sleeping with Saul's concubine. This accusation thus calls him being unfaithful to the cause, which frustrates Abner, and Abner lashes back and defects. 2 Samuel 3, 9 through 10 says, For just what the Lord has sworn to David, that I will accomplish for him, says Abner, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul, and to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan to Beersheba, all the whole kingdom area. Abner seeks a covenant with King David, and so the former commander of Ishbaal's forces is granted a covenant under the condition that Saul's daughter, his wife of David, Michal, comes with him. And so Abner meets Michal, and they journey together to go to David. David holds a feast there in Hebron for his kinsfolk who wish to join him, and Abner requests leave to rally all of Israel behind David. As it says in 2 Samuel 3:21, so David dismissed Abner, and he went away in peace. Things are looking good, but Joab comes back. David's commander comes back and chastises the king for this move because he thinks Abner is actually up to no good. Joab then arranges a private meeting with Abner without the knowledge of King David, and thus he promptly kills Abner in retaliation for his fallen brother Asahel. King David is the one to be upset now. He utters a curse upon Joab for his actions of killing Abner when Abner had been blessed by King David, and then leads the whole kingdom in mourning over Abner. King David puts on sackcloth. He holds a funeral for Abner and refuses to eat as a sign of solidarity and sympathy with the fallen commander for Ishmael's forces. The king of Judah leaves, saying off, "Today I am powerless, even though anointed king. These men, the sons of Zeruiah, are just too violent for me." That includes Joab. "The Lord pay back the one who does wickedly in accordance with his wickedness." Yet, even through this aggression, we see that King David is patient and sticks with Joab throughout all of 2 Samuel. And consequently, Joab sticks with King David through the good times and the bad times, which will come and we will discuss more in 2 Samuel. We will also see other consequences of Joab's actions next time, and hear these ominous words that for later in 2 Samuel, that those who do wickedly in accordance with his wickedness will be repaid. Thus, King David will do something wicked and get repaid wickedness as well. But that is much later on in 2 Samuel. We will leave that teaser to continue next time.